Everybody's ready for this. First thing we do is everybody stand, pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. Do a roll call to ensure that we have quorum. Ms. McKee?
Here.
Dave DePorter?
Here.
Gene Lippy? Here. Jim Fennessy, it's me. Gene Zane?
Zine. Here.
Zine.
Like fine wine.
Somebody lied to you, didn't they?
So he's just getting better as this
I'm
hearing.
sorry.
That's right.
I'm sorry. Come on, guys. Leave me alone. Okay, we do have a quorum because we're all here. It's even better than a quorum. This meeting tonight is a continuation of the meeting for,
You better bang my open.
continuation of case number 5-2024. The applicant is getting ready to continue presenting your case, so if I could have those people and the applicant to please stand. Repeat after me. I do hereby swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. Thank you. Just a little side note, a couple times now that we've had these, we've had a little bit of comment where somebody said they can't hear. One of the reasons that is that we don't talk loud enough sometimes. Another reason is that somebody in the group is getting a conversation going that's not really pertaining to what's going on at the moment. So if we could both help each other out, we'll talk a little bit louder, the group not have individual conversations, okay? Applicant want to present?
Do we want to check to see if there's anybody here in attendance that who has not already received party status, who would wish to be a party in front of the zoning hearing board for the proceedings this evening? And again, if you've already qualified, you're already qualified. Would you like to be a party before the zoning hearing board? Okay. Why don't you, for the board, give your name and address?
Chad Sneeringer, 417 North Street, Sure.
I'm okay, okay.
And what is the distance from the property in question where you reside?
Half a mile.
Half a mile.
No objection.
Mr. Sneeringer, your party number 30.
Yes, ma'am.
How do we know if we're already listed as a party?
You would have had done this little service here with the attorney?
What is
Have
your
you
name?
done this?
What is your name?
It's Linda Stull-Lips, hyphenated.
Did she say that?
Could you repeat that?
Yes, Linda Stull, S-T-U-L-L, and then hyphen Lips, L-I-P-P-S.
You're not a party at this juncture. Would you wish to become a party?
Yes.
All right. So, please stand again.
Give
That's
your name and
Linda
address.
Stull-Lips. And ma'am, what is your address?
10 Locust Drive.
And what is the distance from your home, your residence, to the
I
property?
don't know exactly, but about a block, I'd say.
So it would be less than a mile.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
No
Okay. Fine.
You're number 31. We have somebody else for the board too.
Lucy, L-U-C-Y, Rosie, B-R-O-S-E-Y, 123 Elk Drive, 1.5 miles.
I thought we had
We
said
said a mile, we
had
said a
That's why I
mile
was
Yeah.
wanting to see what your reaction was.
or less.
I'd like to stick to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
yep.
Sorry. Good try, but you're welcome to, I mean, this is a public hearing. You're welcome to be here. Yeah, recognize.
I don't think that we're listed either. Steve and Jody Tierney.
How do you spell your last name?
T like Tom, I-E-R-N-E-Y.
I'll just check the list. You're correct, you're not on the list. What is your address?
124 North Street. Town.
And what is the distance?
A mile.
No objection.
You are now parties. You're not Mr. Tierney? Okay. Okay. We don't want to get anything started here.
Ernest Schmidt.
What's your first name? I'm sorry.
Ernest.
Ernest Schmidt. How do you spell your last name?
SCHMIDT,
And Mr. Schmidt, what is your address?
218 Maple Drive,
And for the record, what is the distance?
quarter mile.
Quarter mile.
No objection.
You're now a party. Go ahead.
Sharon Hershey,
Sharon Hershey.
303 Oxford Avenue. Across the street.
No objection.
And also, hopefully everybody who has applied to be parties, have you all signed in on the sign-in sheet? So that we're able to, because afterwards we'll, track that information and so forth. So please make sure you do that.
Anyone else? Do you know what we're doing, young lady?
Yeah.
Okay. In the previous meeting, did you sign up to be a party to it? Get name, address? Would you like to be? A party to it allows you to go ahead and witness.
And
Speak.
testify.
No, we don't do that.
That's it? No one else? Applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Just to remind you, Johnny Andrews, McNeese Walson, they're here on behalf of the applicant. Just to reorient everyone, since it's been a couple of months. Here on behalf of Divert Real Estate Holdings. I have my same team here that I've had here forever here. Looking to purchase about 22 acres on the west side of Oxford Avenue. Yep, I'm pointing the right way. For a wasted food to biogas conversion facility. We're here before the zoning hearing board asking for two things: an interpretation regarding the maximum height of the anaerobic digester tanks, and a special exception to permit the heavy industrial use in what is the industrial zone along Oxford Avenue. This is the first step in a long, multi-step process of regulatory approvals for the project. It is not the last step before construction would start. After we get through this proceeding, we still have to go to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors for preliminary and final land development plan approval. And there are other outside agency approvals we need that we testified to previously, primarily from the Department of Environmental Protection. This is a continuation. You've heard from 3 of my witnesses. Tonight, I plan to present my final 2 witnesses and hopefully complete our case this evening. So if you're prepared, I'll call my first witness.
Please.
Ready? Mitchell Brady. Mitch, you've already been sworn in. You might just stand it up. Yeah. Dave, I don't know if I'm back to you. Sorry. Mitch, can you just state your name and business address for the record, please?
Mitchell Brady, and then we're located at 5072 Ritter Road, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania.
And what's the name of your company?
Pinoni Associates.
Can you generally describe what you do for Pinoni?
I'm a project engineer for Pinoni.
What does that mean?
I'm tasked with project development for land development.
Do you specialize in any particular areas in that role?
Site design and also environmental permitting.
Do you have
Also, what?
specific?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, site design and environmental permitting.
Do you have specific experience preparing site plans and land development plans for industrial development projects?
Yes, from sites of this size to up to about 1 million square feet.
Do you take continuing education courses to remain current in your field?
Yes, and I also represent a borough, so I'm on the other side as well.
Have you testified before other zoning hearing boards and municipal agencies?
Yes.
Have you been recognized as an expert witness before?
Yes.
Has any municipal board ever refused to accept you as an expert witness?
No.
Mitch, I'm showing you what was pre-marked as Exhibit A5 in the board's packets. You identify for the board what that is?
That's my resume.
Is that an accurate representation of your experience and qualifications?
Yes.
Does everybody in the board have the exhibit packets that I provided previously? I have an extra in case you forgot.
I don't have mine. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Do you have two? Thanks so much.
I'm sorry, Mitch, just to ask again, did you say that your resume, Exhibit A5, accurately summarizes your experience and qualifications?
Yes.
I'd like to offer Mr. Brady as an expert witness on zoning compliance, site design, and land development.
Board determines whether they
Yes.
will accept Mr. Brady as an expert witness.
Very good, thank you. Mitch, can we put up the aerial image first? Again, since it's been some time, I think there's value in just sort of reorienting the board and the audience to everything. I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit A1 in the board's packets.
Yes.
Is that what you also have on the board there?
Correct.
And maybe since the board has copies, if we can turn that
Yeah.
to face the audience, that'd be great. Mitch, is that an aerial image of the property in question?
Yes, the entire tract.
Can you just reorient the public and the board members for that property and what's around it?
Yes, so we are located here. Edgeware Road runs this way, and then Oxford Ave runs this way. This is the entire track, and then this shaded portion is the development area.
What's the zoning classification for this property?
It is zoned industrial.
Are there any other industrial uses in the general area?
Yes, there is. There is Clark's Warehouse here, and then there is the Utz facility over here.
How about a quarry? Is there a quarry nearby?
Yes, the quarry is located just north of the site here. Actually, this way, sorry.
Right there.
Yeah.
Members of the board, there's no perfect way to show you and show the audience at the
We
same
got it.
time. If you have questions at any moment, just holler.
Nope, we're good, thank you.
Can we switch to the site plan, please? Mitch, I'm showing you what was marked in the board's exhibit packet as Exhibit A2, which consists of 3 sheets. Is this the site plan that your company prepared for the application?
Yes.
And is that board showing one of the sheets from that 3-sheet site plan?
The second sheet, yes.
You mind walking us through the improvements that are depicted on that site plan, please?
So this is the facility that's being proposed. Again, the overall tract, this property is one piece of the overall tract. There are 2 driveways being proposed, one being off on this site on what is shown as Lot B, and then the other on our primary site here. Then basically there will be truck loading docks here, internal docks accessed via the truck port here, a ring road going around the facility, and then employee parking here.
Great. Scoot on the other side. Mitch, did you review the Conewago Township zoning ordinance when you were preparing the site plan?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that heavy industrial uses are permitted by special exception in the industrial zone?
Yes.
Did you prepare the site plan in accordance with the zoning ordinance requirements?
Yes.
I'm going to work through some of those, starting with the industrial zone requirements. Does this facility on 22 acres meet the lot and area requirements for uses in the industrial zone?
Yes, and the lot comprises of about 9% of the building, 25% of it will be impervious area, and then the remaining of it will be devoted to open space.
It's okay. You said about 25% will be impervious, is that correct?
Yes.
So does that mean there's less than 65% lot coverage proposed?
Yes, and that includes parking and building.
Will the remaining space remain undeveloped as green space?
Yes.
And then I know you heard me say that the site's 22 acres, but I'll ask the question anyway. Does that mean that the lot exceeds the minimum lot requirement of 20,000 square feet?
Yes.
Does this site plan, Exhibit A2, identify required setbacks along the property lines?
Yes, it does.
And are those labeled front setback line, side setback line, rear setback line?
Yes, and then also the parking setback is on there as well.
Are all improvements, other than landscaping that we'll get to, are all other improvements located outside of those required setback lines?
Yes.
Now, the zoning ordinance sometimes requires buffer strips when adjacent to a residential zone. Is this property adjacent to any residential zones?
It's subdivided form, it is not.
Okay. The zoning ordinance also requires screening when you are adjacent to the R1, R2, R3, or MU zones. Is this proposed subdivided lot adjacent to any of those zoning districts?
No, it is not.
But there's yet a third ordinance requirement that requires a 10-foot wide landscaping strip along all property lines. Is such a landscaping strip depicted on this site plan?
It is, and it can be seen, this black strip here around the site.
So that black strip, is that actually showing a series of individual plantings within a 10-foot wide landscaping strip?
Yes.
And that meets the ordinance requirement?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For every 750 square feet of the landscape strip, will there be a shade or ornamental tree provided?
Yes, there will.
And will there be a continuous low-level vegetation to act as a trash or litter trap?
Yes.
And does all of the landscaping as depicted on this plan comply with the Township subdivision and land development ordinance requirements?
It does.
Will you install only Pennsylvania native species?
Absolutely.
I want to turn your attention to the anaerobic digester tank height issue that we've talked about as part of the testimony of a couple other witnesses. Starting first with the building, does the building comply with the general 45-foot maximum height limitation?
Yes, it does.
Are the anaerobic digester tanks likely to be taller than 45 feet?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And is there any ordinance provision that you believe permits the tanks to be taller than 45 feet?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if that's section 155-32 of the ordinance?
Yes.
And do you recall what exactly that ordinance provision says?
It allows for structures such as utility poles, smokestacks, chimneys, farm silos, windmills, flagpoles, bell towers, spires, steeples, belfries, and among other things, basically any unoccupied structure to be in excess of 45 feet.
So any unoccupied structure, meaning not intended for human occupancy?
Yes.
Okay. And are the anaerobic digester tanks intended for human occupancy?
No, they are not.
Okay. So is it your interpretation and your expert testimony that that ordinance provision permits these tanks to be as tall as 70 feet since they are not intended for human occupancy?
Yes.
Okay. Does that same provision also require structures like a silo or a tank to be set back a distance at least equal to its height if it is going to be taller than 45 feet?
Yes, it does.
And are the two tanks, which I believe you said are the two large circles on Exhibit A2,
Yep.
are they both set back a distance in excess of 70 feet from all property lines?
They're approximately 170 at its minimum and 171 at its maximum.
Okay. Turn your attention to the loading spaces that you said were on the left side or northern side of the building. Do you recall how many spaces are required by the ordinance?
A minimum of 3.
And are there more than 3 proposed on the site plan?
Yes, there are.
Will they be constructed in conformance with the subdivision and land development ordinance?
Absolutely.
How about parking spaces? You identified those as being provided on the eastern side of the building. Do you recall how many parking spaces are required by the ordinance?
There's a minimum of 50 and we're providing 60.
And will all of those parking spaces be designed and constructed in accordance with the subdivision and land development ordinance?
Yes.
Are there any signs proposed for the facility at this time?
No, but if there is signs, they will be applied to the zoning ordinance.
Okay. During your testimony earlier, you identified for the board and the public the 2 access drives located along Oxford Avenue. Have they been designed in accordance with the ordinance requirements?
Yes.
And is that in terms of dimension and site distance?
Yes.
Okay. And will the applicant still have to go through a highway occupancy permit process with PennDOT to permit those 2 access drives?
Yes, they will.
In your opinion, is there safe and convenient access for servicing, fire protection, waste collection, and other circulation around the site?
Yes, especially because Divert requires that a ring road be proposed around the site.
So that ring road, is that the 30-foot wide access drive that proceeds all the way around the digester tanks and other equipment?
Yes.
So that provides 360-degree circulation around the whole site?
Yes.
Do you have the lighting plan? Mitch, I'm showing you what's been marked in everyone's packet as Exhibit A11. Is that the same thing that you have up on the board now?
Yes, it is.
Could you identify for the board what that is?
It is a photometric plan.
And what does that mean?
It shows the light levels for any proposed light structures on the property.
So do you take the property layout, put into it where exactly the light fixtures will be, together with the specifications of each light fixture,
Yes.
and then project what the light readings will be all around the property?
Yes.
And this plan depicts that?
Yes.
Does this plan depict the proposed height limits of each of the light fixtures?
So there is one error on this plan. The light fixtures are at 30 feet, but based on the analysis, those will actually be lowered down to the 25-foot maximum.
Okay. So all light fixtures will actually be no taller than 25 feet?
Yes.
And will all of the light fixtures be so-called full cutoff?
Yes.
Is that because the ordinance requires full cutoff light fixtures? And what does that mean, to be full cutoff?
Basically, there's a hood on it that the lights prevent it from leaching out over top of the lights. So you can only see the lights when you're basically on horizon with them.
Okay. Does the zoning ordinance permit a maximum foot candle or light level at each property line of 1.0?
Yes.
And does this photometric plan, Exhibit A11, confirm that the light level will not exceed 1.0 at any of the property lines?
Yes.
So is it your testimony that the proposed lighting complies with the ordinance requirements?
Yes.
Mitch, that works us through the ordinance requirements. There are general criteria that the board is encouraged to consider as part of any special exception application, and I want to walk you through those. Is it your testimony that the proposed use falls within the definition of heavy industrial uses so as to be permitted by special exception?
Yes.
Is it your expert opinion that the proposed use is consistent with the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance, specifically the industrial zone?
Yes.
Is it your expert opinion that the use will not injure or detract from the use and enjoyment or character of adjoining or nearby properties?
No.
And is that based on your testimony about the lighting and its compliance with ordinance requirements and prior testimony you may have heard about compliance with noise requirements?
Yes, it is.
So taking into account regulatory impacts.
Yeah. And Divert's willingness and requirements to go further and beyond what is required.
Is it your expert testimony that this will not substantially change the character of the property's neighborhood?
No, it will not.
And did you excuse me. Did you testify earlier that there are existing industrial uses in the area?
Yes, there are.
I believe you mentioned the Clarks, the Utz,
Yep.
and the quarry.
Yep.
Is it your opinion that the proposed use will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the neighborhood?
It will not.
And is that your testimony in part due to this application's compliance with all the regulatory requirements and standards for impacts such as noise, lighting, environmental permitting?
Yes.
Is it your expert testimony that the use complies with all the requirements for uses in the industrial zone?
Yes.
How about the requirements for internal circulation, off-street parking, off-street loading, landscaping, screening, buffering, and all the other elements of proper site design?
Yes.
Are there adequate public facilities available and existing to serve the use, including sewer and water service?
Yes, both public.
And is that testimony based on some of the prior testimony that you may have heard? Is there any development proposed within a regulated floodplain or the township's floodplain district?
No, there is no.
Is it your testimony that the use complies with all specific criteria for heavy industrial uses?
Yes.
Do you believe the use will impair the integrity of the township's comprehensive plan?
No, it will not.
Is it your expert testimony that this application complies with all the requirements of the zoning ordinance?
It is.
And do you believe the use is appropriate for the property and the neighborhood?
Absolutely.
Those are all the questions I have for Mr. Brady.
One time we, objectors, yeah, the ability,
Why don't we go through, go through the list to see if any of the objectors wish, so we make sure we don't miss any.
I have a question before.
We ask questions
Yeah,
first, right?
go- you can.
Okay, so this photometrics is the 30-foot holes. When do you believe the 25-foot, the accurate layout will be done
Through the land development process.
through the land development? Okay,
Those are very preliminary lights.
I got you. And you're using 3,000 Kelvin?
So again, they're very preliminary lights, so that usually we take care of that through LD, and it complies with the ordinance.
Okay.
Again, lighting is very subjective. There's 1.5 million choices out there for lighting, even in manufacturers and things like that. So again, we work with Divert to pick the manufacturer that they prefer when that time becomes appropriate. And right now, it's kind of hard to decide that. So it's very preliminary.
Well, I would like 3,000, or we would like.
That's something we can absolutely comply with.
It's not gonna cost you more.
did you have a question?
Kelly?
I don't.
I have two. I'm not sure if you're the one to answer this, but why does it need to be 70 feet?
I think we tried to cover that with prior testimony from
Okay.
Mr. Davis. That's a worst-case scenario.
Okay, so we don't know if it's gonna be 70 feet, and maybe, if maximum, it would be 70 feet, but it might be 52, maybe 50, we don't know.
I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe Mr. Davis testified it's more likely to be between 60 and 65, but we asked for 70 to be conservative.
I remember that, thank you.
I think we need to finalize geotechnical evaluations to determine exactly
remember that
where the
too.
height will be.
Thank you. The one question I have, you mentioned that it's not gonna impact our environment, our area, but there is a young man here who's not in the audience today about the water consumption, and that's my concern. You guys are saying you're net positive, okay? But the water you return, we can't use. So how can we say that we're still net positive? Is that
Not really part of Mr. Brady's testimony.
Okay.
I would just say our testimony was that that is water that will end up back in the ground.
Right.
It does not necessarily get right into your public water supply immediately.
So what I think we need to do is have the water reevaluated, because if we're using 100,000 gallons a day and we're not putting anything back, we gotta see what that impact is to us. I know you're putting something back into our system, but that's probably going to the river, down to the ocean. So that's my only concern. I don't know, I'm sorry if you can't answer that, but my question has been stated. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, the parties will have an opportunity to ask questions of Mr. Brady regarding his testimony. So this is your right of cross-examination. Our first additional party is Deborah Matthews. Is Deborah Matthews here? Next would be Jackie Barham and Ganel Glasgow.
My concern was the lighting, since we back up to the property. You're saying the light's gonna be 25 feet up, am I correct?
That's a maximum
That's,
25, yeah.
okay. But it's gonna be shining down, so you don't have to worry about it shining
Yep.
outwards?
Yes, correct.
How far out will the light be shining?
So with the photometrics plan, basically the property line is our cutoff point. So if you stand at the property line, you'll have 0.01 of candlelight, which is 1 square foot of candle. That's how much it lights. That's the unit it uses. So, you know, if you're standing off the property, you'll be able to see it, but it won't be radiating towards you.
Okay.
Yep.
We're done.
Kevin Otley? Mr. Otley? Stephen Smith, Mr. Smith.
Yeah. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you this evening?
Doing well. So this backs right up against my property. So that
Where do you live?
509 Church Street. And the farm right next to it.
So, where?
To the left, right there.
Okay.
That's
So your
my
house
farm.
is way down here?
Yeah, my house is down there.
Okay.
So my concern is you have a 10-foot area where you're gonna plant trees.
Mm-hmm.
Trees encroach on my farmland,
Okay.
okay? So I prefer you don't plant trees there.
Yeah.
So I just wanna make that point because it takes away from our production.
So that goes back to the ordinance.
Yeah, the ordinance requires us to not just plant, but to maintain that landscaping. And certainly we would need to prune it and maintain it so it doesn't trespass onto your property. But your concern about trees as compared to some other planting is well taken, and we'll factor that in moving forward.
Caroline Byrne?
I don't really have any questions right now. My house is the fourth from the corner there, and I'm kind of, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
That's okay. Jody Himes.
No questions for Mr. Davis.
Rayanne Kaufman.
Hi, I have my questions for you. So I am about the fifth house down here at Ensford Road. My concern is lighting. I knew you had on there about lights being 30 foot tall, and now they're going to be 25. Why did you go with the 30 foot compared to the 25?
Again, we used a very preliminary design.
So-
It goes back to Divert
so-
choosing the lights, and it was just a mistake that was put on. Those will be 25 foot high.
So you just kind of put it together just to have something
Yes.
in the ballpark. That's
Yeah,
what you were.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But again, when we go through and actually do the photometric plans, the actual one that gets built, it's all the T's and I's are crossed going through it, and at the property line is where the photometrics are limited.
Okay, and what have you considered for, especially since a lot of us are across the road from you guys on Edge Road?
Right here.
Yes.
So something else to remember too is between the facility's going to sit right here. There's about 1,000 foot between the facility and Edge
But I can
Road.
still see, you gotta understand, I work from home.
Yeah.
I look straight out my window, my
Yeah.
front window. And if you're gonna go there, I wanna see you every day.
So
So what are you considering putting to block the view that we don't see you?
so
And
that's
to help with the lighting, because I don't want lights shining into my house.
Yeah,
We're gonna
you
have
won't-
light pollution.
Yeah, you won't have any light pollution from the facility. That's what the cutoff is for. And then also to the landscaping strip around it.
So do you have any idea what you're gonna be putting out for landscaping wise?
It'll comply with ordinance for native plants and also the shade tree requirement as well. For every so many trees, we're required to have a certain amount
You're
of
gonna have the
shrubbery.
same type of landscaping along Oxford Ave too?
Yes.
What-
Here.
So you're gonna have enough, but you'll have enough room for your driveways for people to run.
Yep.
When it's rain?
Yep.
And the specific vegetation that's chosen is all part of land development. It's not typically identified at the zoning stage.
We also have a registered landscape architect that actually chooses the plants. It's not an engineer that does it.
Taking consider those of us who have to see you every day. I don't want to see you.
No
offense.
Yeah.
But, you know, I looked out across that field all these years, and it's just been cornfields or soybean, you know, so it's like, it's just weird, you're gonna be right in the middle.
And again, just leveling with you, dealing with developers every day, Divert is interested in providing a nice facility compared to others as well.
And if you don't do anything with the geological surveying or anything like that, you don't have, do you deal with anything with the geological surveying? Oh, like the tanks and stuff like that?
For the geotech?
Yeah. You
No,
do?
we do
No.
not.
Okay.
Nope.
So that's not in within your scope?
Yeah, that's not what, nope.
Alright, that's all I have for now for you. Great, thank you.
Gene Livelsberger? Fred Wilkie?
Let's give it a shot. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you're gonna be taking in 10,000 gallons a day of water. You just got finished saying that the 20,000 gallons is gonna go in the ground. You say that?
I did not provide any specific numbers, and this is also not a topic of Mr. Brady's testimony.
Okay,
This was a prior witness.
all right, next question. But I do wanna follow up on that one. Next question, how far apart are the entrances?
The thousands.
Yeah, feet. They're over 1,000 feet.
That answers my question.
Kim Mern. Kim Mern, Ms. Mern. Steve Markle. Joanne Leonard. Scott Holstad and Gretchen Van Ostrand. Brendan McCall.
Not here.
Julie Doan. Sandy Timmons.
Here.
Yes, my concern is with the lighting. The people that live across the street from it. And I live right across the street here, and I have to keep.
Here on Edge Grove?
Yeah, right across over here.
How's that?
I have to keep my blinds shut so I can sleep at night for all the lighting that's here on the township.
So, to that point, we actually go back to the site plan, right? So, you're about 1,000 feet this way. There's a 14-acre open space in between Edge Grove, well, there's 1,000 feet to the property line, and then a 14-acre open space area here before you even get to the facility. So, there will be no light pollution that will bleach off this facility into your home, unless you're looking directly at it. And again, that does not come in through the blinds.
Yeah, you say so.
Justin Harrison. Mr. Harrison. Wendy Groft.
I have no questions.
Connie Ernst. Trevor Gladfelter. Bernard Mern.
I have no questions at this time.
Very good. Robert Klunk. Gregory Howell. Dennis Martin.
My concerns are with zoning board. May I speak now?
Well, at this point, and you will be given an opportunity
Okay,
to
I'll
testify,
go.
but if you have any questions for this witness.
No, I don't have any at this time. I just wanted to make sure I was at the right spot.
You're here and you're recognized as a party.
Yeah.
John Dabbs. Laura Beecraft. Karen Keeney. Judith McKim.
No questions at this time.
Very good. Sandra Fields. Well, now we get into our ones from tonight. Chad Sneeringer. Mr. Sneeringer.
Yeah, I have a question, but since I was unable to attend prior meetings, was there anything discussed about the emissions as far as odor or pollutants?
Yes, and
And that's no problem.
that was our testimony. That's correct. Emissions will comply with regulatory requirements, and there's no odors perceptible beyond the property line. In fact, no odors perceptible beyond the building.
Okay. What if there is? What fallback is there?
The zoning ordinance contains protections against that, and if we were in violation of that, that's something that Mr. Arndt would be able to enforce against us.
Linda Stahl-Lips.
Yes, you'll have to tell me if this is not in your wheelhouse, okay? We already suffer from corporations who use our roads like parking lots. What provision have you made that there will be no trucks parked along our roads waiting to get into your facility?
So that
What
also was
assurance
covered
do we
previously
have?
by a witness. Divert is unique.
Oh, it's not in his plan?
It's not, but that's okay, it's a good question. Divert's unique in that they employ their own drivers and have control over who's bringing and taking material as compared to outsourcing that. So they can ensure those drivers use certain routes, that those drivers don't park where they're not supposed to park, and there's an anti-idling policy that we will have in place to prevent vehicles from idling for more than 10 minutes at a time.
Thank you.
Stephen Jody Tierney.
I have a question. You had testified earlier, and I know Mr. Wilkie had asked, because you had testified that you were an expert in the EPA aspect. I know you keep saying that it's not going to smell and to provide problems for us, health-wise. Has any kind of report from the other plants ever been provided so that we can see what has come up in other regions where there's locations?
So that was not part of Mr. Brady's testimony. He is by no means an expert on EPA
No,
regulatory.
no, I'm not. I don't want to be.
But we did provide a witness to that effect. There is an air permit that's required for this site that we will work through, that goes to EPA for review and approval.
I know that there was a witness that testified to that, but has a report actually been provided where we can put eyes on that and see for ourselves what the EPA reports have been in those areas where there's current plants?
That has not been provided as an exhibit. Those
Okay.
are public domain documents that you can seek, and if the zoning hearing board or anybody else at the township wants that, it's certainly something we
I
can
mean,
provide.
I know from my standpoint that that would give me peace of mind if there's somewhere that I can go and look and actually physically see that, where that lies. And then the other area, and I don't know if this is in your scope or not, I know the lady back here asked, but as far as the trucks utilizing these roads, I know that some tractor trailers are in here, but especially up where Oxford Avenue comes out at 116, tractor trailers have a very difficult time traversing that turn in there. So has there been any study about the amount of tractor trailers and, the impact in having to possibly expand roadways just to allow for these tractor trailers to?
So my next witness will cover the number of tractor trailers and where we stand on evaluating the roadway network.
Gotcha, okay.
Mr. Schmidt, Ernest Schmidt.
My concern is the value of our properties. If this thing stinks, causes problems, the value of our properties is gonna go down.
So the value of properties as it's impacted by development is not really something that can be regulated by the township in a zoning ordinance or in any other ordinance. And for any of us to speculate what impact this will have on values would be merely guessing. I understand the concern, I really do, but it's a guessing game.
Well, it appears to me that this is already cut and dry.
I don't think so. We've been diligently working to demonstrate our compliance with the ordinance. So I hope by the time we complete that we've made our case. But there's been this perception expressed throughout the hearings by members of the audience that this is a charade, and that's not the case. I mean, there has been countless hours of preparation of materials and thoughtful attention provided by the board to the testimony. This is a serious proceeding, and we've been committed to it the whole way. So I think it's a disservice to suggest that anything is sort of in the works or already decided. That's not how this has played out at all.
Sharon Hershey.
Yes, my first question is, where are these access entrances going to be on Oxford Avenue? Can you show me on your map?
There'll be one located.
No, where I live and.
Okay,
where's-
yeah. Yep. So we're going to switch back and forth here. Where do you live here?
303 Oxford.
Right over there across the street. Right here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there'll be one entrance here, which is shown there, here. And then there'll be another entrance down here.
Almost across from my property, which it's already difficult now to get in and out of my driveway. And
So those entrances, the reason that they are placed like that is because there's another development across the street that is being planned, and we have to obviously align driveways, because if we do not align driveways, that situation gets 10 times worse. Yeah.
And my second question is, how can you say that this does not affect the aesthetics of my community? I've lived here all my life. My family has lived here for over 300 years on this land, and it's always been farmland. And I don't understand how you can say that sitting something in the middle of the field, a factory in the middle of the field, does not affect the aesthetics.
So this is a continuation of an existing industrial zone that stops here. It does stop here. So this is zoned agricultural on this side, but this is a continuation from an industrial zone that also begins over here. So based on that, it's zoned industrial. So that's why it will not affect the aesthetics, because it's inevitable that it will be developed at some point.
I don't think you understand aesthetics.
Oh.
Can I try again to be a party? I'm a resident of the township.
Yeah, no, I
just
think
want
we.
to ask a clarifying question. As a resident of the township.
Yeah, that's not allowed. That's not allowed. You have to be a party to the proceeding.
They're saying I'm not allowed to be a party even though I'm a resident of the
She's one
township.
of a mile and a half.
Who pays taxes here.
The
pays
board,
for here.
wait. Not every resident is a party to the proceeding. You have to meet certain qualifications and be so affected personally that you get the elevated status of a party.
So I can't ask any questions
You're-
unless I.
It would be, ma'am, it's like going to court. You would not, as a member of the audience, expect to
This
participate.
is a public hearing. It's not a court.
It's a zoning hearing. It's not a hearing where the public decides these things. It's a hearing that the zoning hearing board has to make decisions based on evidence that's properly placed before it. So there's certain requirements in terms of those issues.
Set by the party, not.
No, by the law, actually.
So the 1 mile radius was based on the law.
The 1 mile radius was set at the very first hearing
By.
by essentially the applicant and the zoning hearing board. We have 30-something parties.
Great.
Call my last witness, Paul Wood. Paul, you've already been sworn. Can you state your name and business address for the record, please?
Can you, any questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have no question. You're good, you're good.
Good. Paul, can you state your name and business address for the record, please?
Paul F. Wood, work for Pinoni Associates Incorporated at 5072 Britter Road, Mechanicsburg, PA 17055.
And what do you do for Pinoni Associates?
I'm a traffic engineer.
Can you generally describe what that means?
I perform and review traffic impact studies, highway occupancy permit plans, a lot of different safety studies, design traffic signals, traffic control plans for construction projects.
Okay.
And if you can drive on it.
Can you keep your?
Sorry, yeah. Basically, if you can drive on it,
We can't hear
work
you.
on it some way. Okay.
Okay. We'll have them speak up. So would you say you specialize in transportation and traffic planning and the permitting that goes with it?
Correct.
Do you have experience in evaluating the transportation impacts of industrial development projects?
Yes. Warehouses, industrial, commercial, and business, really.
Okay. Do you take continuing education credits to remain current in your field?
I do.
Okay. Have you testified as an expert witness before municipal bodies or zoning hearing boards in the past?
Yes.
Has any board ever refused to accept you as an expert witness?
No.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit A6 in the board's packet. Could you identify that for the board, please?
That's my resume.
And does that resume accurately summarize your experience and qualifications?
General. Summary.
Summary, okay. But there's nothing inaccurate in it, is that correct?
That's correct.
And I failed to identify for the board, are you a licensed professional engineer?
I am.
And is your license up to date and in good standing?
It is.
I'd like to offer Mr. Wood as an expert witness in transportation and traffic matters.
Board have any questions of Mr. Wood regarding his qualifications, and
If not, then it's your determination.
I approve.
You've worked locally. The board recognizes Mr. Wood as an expert in, as an expert witness then.
Very good, thank you. Paul, have you had a chance to look at the township's zoning ordinance requirements for when a traffic impact report is required as part of a zoning hearing?
Yes.
And does that direct you to the township's subdivision and land development ordinance for the minimum threshold for when a traffic impact study is required?
It does.
Do those ordinances together require a traffic impact study when there is more than 500 average daily trips or more than 50 peak hour trips proposed for a development?
It does.
So if you are below either of those thresholds, you do not need a transportation impact report or study, is that correct?
Unless required by other sections.
Right. Are we below 500 average daily trips or 50 peak hour trips?
No. Or are we below? Yes.
Okay, so we are
We're
less
not
than
above.
that.
We're less than 50, less than 5.
So the township's ordinances do not require a transportation impact study for this project, correct?
Correct.
But access is provided along Oxford Avenue, which is a state roadway, correct?
Correct.
So eventually there will be a highway occupancy permit necessary for those two access cuts, correct?
Yes, with PennDOT.
And will PennDOT require a transportation impact study as part of their highway occupancy permit process?
With this level, I would anticipate that just a.
Louder, please.
Sorry, at this, the level of trips proposed for this site, PennDOT would require a site access study to design the 2 driveways.
Okay, is that something lower in terms of the requirements than a transportation impact study?
Yes.
So you talked about the level of trips anticipated for this site, and you've heard prior testimony because you've attended the hearings. Do you recall what the projected trip generation is for the site?
Based on the application, there's the 60 employees would be expected to generate. 60 employees would be expected to generate approximately 201 vehicle trips with an additional 28 truck trips per day, or trucks per day, which then would be 56 trips entering Fort Hager.
So 201 total trips in a day for the employees, and you said 56 total for the trucks. So a grand total of 257 trips over a 24-hour period?
Correct.
Okay. Does that come out to a little bit more than 10 trips an hour?
Yes.
Although no transportation impact study is required by the township ordinance, have you already started to plan for what may be required by PennDOT as part of the highway occupancy permit process?
Yes.
Do you anticipate PennDOT requiring us to evaluate the performance level of nearby intersections?
No.
Because the trip generation is so low, you don't expect them to require that?
Correct.
When we go into land development, if the township were to so desire for us to evaluate the roadway network like you would see normally for a transportation impact study, is that something you understand Divert to be willing to do?
Well, the PennDOT would require response from the township saying that they accept that transportation impact study scope.
Okay. So if the township says we want to see XYZ intersections evaluated, Divert will need to do that as part of the highway occupancy permit process.
Correct.
Okay. Given the low trip generation, do you foresee any issues in the highway occupancy permit process? Meaning, do you see any issues in having either of those two access points be permitted by PennDOT?
No.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have for Mr. Wood.
Can you share what the differential is between the site access study or the impact study?
It's in PennDOT publication 46. They outline basically turn lane warrants, level of service for delay, capacity analysis for the driveway, just to make sure that it will operate efficiently. Safe distance is, even if you did no study, you would still require safe distance analysis.
So basically, it's a basic going in and out of the driveways to make sure that they're safe, that people can do it without having barriers to site. But the impact study would be different in that that's how much traffic is basically happening. So site, am I correct that PennDOT's going to?
If the volumes are higher, then it would be expected that leaving the site, it's not going to be 50-50, but the traffic disperses. And the impact on an individual intersection is less than, at the said driveway.
Okay, thank you.
Although, if there are issue or problem areas, congested areas, the township has an opportunity at the PennDOT scoping meeting to say, we would like this intersection to be studied.
Paul, I did forget to ask you, you saw that the building is, I forget, 80,000 square feet or so, something along the 95, thank you. If this were a warehouse of the same size or a distribution center of a similar size, both of which are uses permitted in this zone, how would those trip generation numbers compare to our proposed trip generation numbers?
They're fairly comparable. Just the regular, so the 201 passenger car trips is based on an industrial land use, where there's other lighter industrials that would have more trips. It really depends on what the individual tenant is.
Would a typical distribution center have more truck traffic?
Definitely. More trucks, yes.
In your experience, are the...
Per square foot, maybe less employees.
Given your experience with industrial development, is this particular use a low truck traffic use?
Yes.
Objectors?
And does the board have, anybody on the board have any
You
further?
just answered my question of how you recommend that this is low, but you just answered that. But you're saying it's 257 per day, that's a maximum capacity, since it's 28 trucks going in and out, so it's basically 28 times 2.
Right.
So we're not gonna have any more than 28 trucks, but we may have less than 28 trucks.
That was based on the prior testimony of 20 deliveries of material, 7
In and
waste
out.
trucks,
Right.
and an assumed 1 UPS or
UPS or FedEx.
FedEx truck.
Okay. So that's 257's a maximum then, you know, if you really think of it.
It's a conservative
Right,
estimate.
okay, thank you.
Hey, one more follow-up, sorry. The trip generation numbers, so 28 for the trucks, 201 for the employees. Are those numbers you pull out of thin air? Or do you rely on an industry standard publication that PennDOT requires you to use to come up with those numbers?
Yes, the passenger car trips, I utilize the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation manual. Their number of employees, 60, even if all 60 came, all 60 left, you know, that's only 120 trips. So that 257 would be a very conservative estimate based on the IT trip generation for, you know, just general industrial sites, not the divert.
Is that
sites.
because ITE and PennDOT prefer to do things very conservatively to plan for worst case?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? I didn't sign up for anything. It's in regard to the traffic.
Was that your question?
That's my question,
Can
yeah.
I ask a question?
Yeah. I got it in, right?
You didn't sign up for anything?
No, I did not.
Well, I mean, you're not a party, so no, you cannot ask. Party status allows you to do or to have rights of cross-examination.
Okay. I just hope traffic is taken into consideration here. So it's not a question. I got it in.
In the town.
Mr. Arndt, do you have any questions?
No.
All right, we're gonna go back through the list. And I apologize, maybe somebody has come in since so I'm gonna go through the whole list. Deborah Matthews. Jackie Barham.
Yes. I have a question. You said there's like 60 employees. Is that 60 employees total, or is that like per shift? Because you said before this was a 24/7 operation.
It's 60 total and divided into shifts.
So do we know how many on a shift that we know that's coming and going at periods during the day? Because it doesn't sound like 201 coming on at one time.
I don't know the operations of the site, how many people need to be on site, a minimum or maximum, that's not.
Okay, so that
So-
200 so what I'm getting at, that 201 is not all coming at one time. and then
I can tell you based on the ITE trip generation manual, the AM peak hour is 27 trips total, entering and exiting, and the PM peak hour is 24.
Just for clarification, Paul, AM peak hour means the anticipated busiest 60-minute period in the morning on a weekday?
Correct.
And PM peak hour means the anticipated busiest 60-minute window on a weekday afternoon?
Correct.
And Ms. Glasgow, are her questions, she doesn't have any
She
questions?
doesn't have it.
Okay. Kevin Otley, I don't believe he was here to begin with, so. Okay. Mr. Smith, I know you're here.
Yeah. So is referring to the traffic studies, can the township require traffic studies done beyond our township? Because when you cross the railroad tracks at...
PennDOT can.
PennDOT
But
can.
I don't believe the township can.
But the zoning board can ask PennDOT for those studies? Is that correct?
At the scoping meeting, I believe the township would have an opportunity to work with other nearby
Is
municipalities.
that something we can do? Because once we leave, we're right on the border of York County, and we see an extreme amount of traffic down Kindig and out through Irishtown, and we're entering other zones, and I think their concerns for their intersections should be taken into account when we're discussing development of this property.
Caroline Mern, I believe she's not here, but.
is.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
Your turn.
I live fourth house from the corner on Edge Grove Road, right in there. Okay, we have a lot of traffic there. We have traffic coming down the Oxford Road. The quarry is back there. We sit on the porch, have our coffee. There's truck after truck after truck full of stones from the quarry. There's school buses. There are probably 4 or 5 at a time going up the Oxford Avenue. Coming out Edge Grove Road to get on there, there's a development over the hill, wherever, I don't know the name of it. You probably do.
Oak Hills and Chapel View.
Okay.
Or Chapel Ridge.
Those people are coming down that road. Sometimes it's hard to get out our driveway. And we come to the stop sign, which sometimes you can't see the whole way up because trees are growing there. I'm concerned with the extra traffic from the trucks. Will they all be coming down Oxford Avenue, going to north? Will they be coming out Edge Grove Road to the stop sign there?
I haven't looked at particular percentages of trucks coming to and from the facilities.
There's a lot
but
of quarry stones coming out there.
I believe
There's trucks coming down.
the Eisenhower Drive extension, most traffic will be headed
When
south.
will that happen?
I'm sorry, I can't hear the witness.
The proposed Eisenhower Drive extension, I believe, would draw truck traffic to the south.
We have been waiting for that since we moved in, which was 60 years ago, for the bypass. I mean, they are talking about putting a 2-lane road in, which now you would need 4 lanes. It's crazy, that road. So I don't know if people want to count how many trucks are going by. That's my problem.
You have a question for Mr. Brady?
I just want to know what's going to happen with all this extra traffic. You have 257 new people coming in. We have the development, we have the quarry, we have the school buses. And sometimes it's hard to get out our driveway. Would they put a light at one of the intersections?
Not as part of this development. I don't anticipate that.
More traffic really doesn't count.
If the intersection, I think the comprehensive plan, the township's comprehensive plan should cover problem intersections.
That's the problem I have with the traffic. Thank you.
Jody Himes?
Yes, I do have a question. On the map, could you clarify, I believe Edgebury Road is a Pennsylvania state-owned road?
Correct. So is Oxford Avenue.
What about Oxford Avenue right out here?
It is.
That is also a state road.
2008.
So if we're talking.
Can I clear that up?
Wait a minute.
Oxford is a state road from Edge Grove into the light, but from Edge Grove to Black Lane is township.
Okay.
I just wanted to make
Part
that
of my
clear.
point. 28 trucks a day, do we have any idea of the weight? If a truck is loaded with the wasted food that's on the way to divert. We as township residents want to know what responsibility financially we're going to bear to maintain those roads. And And the point I bring this up, and this is a little off base, but if you go in Kindig Lane and turn left on High Street, that road is cracked, busted. It is the most horrible condition, and it seems that once a year they're patching it and fixing it. 2 weeks later, after heavy rain, giant potholes again. So I don't know what, how many thousands of pounds a loaded truck would be, but the concern for us is now are we going to be constantly maintaining this strip of road that's out here between Edge Grove and going towards Iriston? So is there any, in part of what you do, is there any impact on the weight?
It's a state highway.
No, this just
Well,
got done saying this section here is owned by the township. So in your studies, do you have to do a calculation on the weight impact and the damage to a road?
No.
And does the road maybe have to be changed to accommodate the weight of trucks rather than the weight of residents? Using
No,
their
that would
personal
not be
cars?
part of the transportation impact study.
Maybe that's something we need to consider. Thank you.
Fran Hoffman, I believe you're up.
Thank you. So I knew you had said about, you must know about the Eisenhower extension then, right? All right.
What I read online,
That's all you know about it.
for the most part, and then I saw it's slated for construction on the,
And do you know that there's supposed to be no roads coming off of that, so you will not be able to access that unless you come off after that? Are you aware?
I did not look at the layout plan or where interchanges for that
Have you
were laid
taken
out.
into consideration actually any of the roads right here? Have you actually driven any of our roads here?
I've been, it's been a while. I did the traffic study for the Target Wilson Avenue in Hanover, off Eisenhower Drive.
That's Penn Township, I believe. Right? That's Penn Township.
But so, and I also do reviews for PennDOT, so I'm familiar with the area. PennDOT District 8 is Franklin, Adams, Lancaster, Cumberland, Dauphin, Perry, and Lebanon counties. So I review studies and highway occupancy permit plans on behalf of PennDOT.
So what's your confidence in getting the okay from PennDOT to have your, I guess for your driveway access and stuff like that?
Extremely high.
Extremely high. So you
Well,
think
I personally, I don't have to do the study, and there's other studies involved in developing other parts.
So will these studies hold up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're more comprehensive
And
regionally,
you're
from
not-
116 to 94 up to Edge Grove Road. It's all.
And you're not aware of what routes these trucks are going to take to come in? Are you aware of that at all?
94, and yes, there's.
So they're going to come out 30 and then 94 and like Eisenhower and then High Street?
I don't know the specific facilities that Divert will be sourcing their materials,
Your
but they're.
inquiries are supposed to be based on what he has testified to.
Right.
Yeah, I was questioning him.
But you're going off from left field right now. Truck directions and everything else, what routes he's using and everything else.
Well, I asked him if he knew the truck routes, and he was saying yes, he did.
He's also asked about the road that's been put in now for the last 20 years. It hasn't happened, the bypass. And that's not his.
He had mentioned it, sir.
They're going to end up on Oxford Avenue and access the site from around the region.
That's all I have. Happy.
Satisfied.
That is going to be really.
Gene Livelsberger, I believe, is not here, correct? Every time I say that, though, the person pops up, so. Mr. Wilkie, I know you're here.
I'm here. you know, I don't remember the number of trucks, 100 of them, 200, whatever it is.
28.
28 trucks, twice a day.
Daily.
No,
But
28
keep
total.
keep in mind, you're the first one there. And there's another space down here, and another space up there. How many trucks are they gonna
This
do?
application is about this project only.
I'm looking at the long term.
That's fine, but that's not what the board is asked to look at.
Okay, I'm looking at trying to get up Ridge Avenue when I come home from work.
Understood.
And
But right
some
now,
days-
this hearing's
some
about this
days-
application, sir.
Some days it takes 5 minutes to get up Ridge Avenue because of the traffic. You want me to sit down?
No?
So I'm concerned about the truck traffic now and in the future, which is just gonna be multiplied. Whether it's truck traffic or car traffic, this is only the tip of the iceberg, because it's just getting started. Because you've got this next lot and the next lot up there, and I don't know what they're doing across the road. So it's gonna bite the township in the behind, just wait.
And Mr. Wilkie, you will have an opportunity to provide testimony regarding your concerns later on directly to the board when it's the time. This is just cross-examination of the applicant's witness. Once the applicant's case is completed, then we are going to proceed with getting the testimony of the parties. So you will have an opportunity. Kim Mern, Steve Markle, I don't believe's here. Joanne Leonard, Scott Holstad, Gretchen Van Ostren are not here. Brendan McCall not here. Julie Doan not here. Sandy Timmons. No questions. Justin Harrison, I don't believe is here. Wendy Groft.
No questions.
Connie Ernst. Trevor Gladfelder. Bernard Mern.
No questions.
Robert Klunk. Gregory Howell. Dennis Martin, I know you're here.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions, Mr. Martin, of this witness,
No, I don't have no questions this time, only for the going forward.
Yeah. And you will have an opportunity to provide
I
testimony.
understand.
John Dabbs? No. Laura Beecraft? Karen Keeney? Judith McKim?
No questions.
Sandra Fields? Mr. Sneeringer, Chad Sneeringer?
No questions.
Linda Stahl-Lips?
Yes. Thanks for your work. I think I put together the steps that we have to take as local residents based on what you said, and I just want to have it clarified to make sure I'm correct. And that is that I think you said we can request of the board that they request that PennDOT do a study of the intersection in McSherrystown. Did I put that all together right? To
More or
see if
less,
it's
the
adequate.
township will be invited to a scoping meeting for the driveway application. And that's already happened.
Okay, but I'm talking about, you know, the intersections and the trucks making around the turn and things like that, which is difficult, especially in the Sherrystown, if you've looked at that.
Mr. Arndt is the primary point of contact between the township and PennDOT during the highway occupancy permit process. So your best avenue for getting that sort of input provided by the township to PennDOT is to go through Mr. Arndt. Sorry, Dave.
Okay. and
Can I comment on that?
We as residents can.
You can, however, during the land development plan stages, this is for the use. If they get the use, then they have to go through the planning commission for the actual development. That's where the lighting, traffic, and all that is addressed. Typically with PennDOT, they will contact us and for the scope of work, and 9 out of 10 times, and in this case, more than likely, the township will suggest the scope of the traffic study be outside of just Edge Grove and Oxford. We can't enforce it into another municipality, but we can suggest it, and typically it is put then back on the applicant to provide that information.
All right, thank you.
Stephen Jody Tierney.
No, thank you.
Ernest Schmidt.
Not at this time.
Sharon Hershey.
Yeah, I'm not, I've listened to a lot of numbers and a little confused, but the number 500 came up as to a threshold for traffic. Is that correct? On Oxford Avenue, 500 is like the threshold?
For a development in this township.
Okay.
For the township ordinance to require a transportation impact study.
Okay.
Prior to the PennDOT process, we would have to be projecting more than 500 trips a day.
So that's not added on to what we already have?
Correct. It's
Okay.
the projected additional traffic. When you get into the study process at PennDOT, that factors in what they call background traffic, which is everything on the roadway already, together with a presumed growth factor over time for other development. Also adds in any known projects that have been approved and are to be built, and then also your traffic. All of that is added together when evaluating the impact on the roadway network.
But your study right now is separate from that. What I'm asking is, you have no idea. You have no
I've just
idea what
run
the
preliminary
traffic-
numbers.
You
I
have
haven't
no idea
done a
what the traffic
scoping
number is now
application.
on Oxford Avenue, right? Your study is simply you don't know what's going up and down the road now.
Right, I've only done trip generation.
Okay.
There's other, I'd have to collect data to know more about the specific, daily traffic. There are online sources, but I don't have that number.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
Not at this time, no.
Board, any further questions? No. Mr. Arndt?
No.
Okay.
Those are my witnesses and my exhibits. I've reserved the right to call any additional if need be, based on testimony from the other parties, but I am not.
Okay. The applicant has rested. I think we then go to Mr. Arndt to see whether or not he has any testimony that he wishes or any considerations for the zoning hearing board.
Not at this time.
Okay. Now we'll go.
Any other testimony or evidence being presented?
Let's go down our list. What we're going to do is, if you wish to present testimony, and it's so that the board can consider your testimony, we're going to have the chair of the zoning hearing board put you under oath, just as the other witnesses were put under oath prior to doing that, just so that you understand from a procedural standpoint.
Want to do them all at one time?
Let's go one at a time. So that we're assured that we've gotten each person who wishes to testify. Deborah Matthews still not here? Never know. Jackie Barham. No testimony. Ms. Glasgow? Okay. Mr. Utley hasn't appeared. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
It's your turn.
Oh, your time. Awesome.
Mr. Smith, you can repeat after me, please. I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
the whole truth, and nothing but the
the whole
truth.
truth, and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Please be seated.
Yeah, Mr. Smith, you're a party. You now have the opportunity to present any testimony or evidence that you wish to have the zoning hearing board consider.
Okay, so I have a few comments. First off, I do applaud the guys for what they want to do. I'm concerned about the development of all these properties, and as we don't have a network to support all this industry that was put forth. I'm concerned about water usage. I mean, we've just gone through 2 summers where we're close to a drought condition. I'm concerned about the sewer capabilities in the future as we add more industry to this area. And I'm also really disappointed at our Board of Supervisors that they even considered zoning this industrial from the start, considering that Conewago Township lies in a highly agricultural, profitable area, and in an area where there's not a lot of access to roads. I know they want to put the Eisenhower extension in, which is going to go through my farm, where I'm losing more land. It will also affect Fred Wilkie's farm, who I farm, so there's more lost revenue for me. And as we continue to develop these properties, it's just going to exponentiate problems that we're discussing right now, as far as infrastructure. So my concern, and also, you know, we're backing this right up to residential. There, in my opinion, if the township wanted to rezone areas, they should have required that the industries that they want to put in here would have been started to be built behind hoods and work their way out this way, rather than start here and work their way towards hoods. I see no reason why this plant couldn't have been built where we didn't have to look at it. It should have been stipulated when they rezoned this that certain parts of this land, which borders our homes, should never been rezoned as industry or industry, heavy industry. So now we have to, and again, we don't know what our property values will, how they will suffer. There's nothing that will allow us to recoup those losses. I'm just really disappointed. And I really think that this plant should have been built, and any industry should have been built where we can't see it and started behind us. And my feeling is that they started here on this side of Oxford Avenue, because if they can get this passed through in our backyards, it'll ease any concerns of any more industries that will be put on the other side of Oxford Avenue, because we're going to already feel like we've been defeated. Thank you.
Mr. Andrews, do you have any questions of Mr. Smith?
I do not.
Do any members of the board have any questions to ask Mr. Smith regarding his testimony?
No.
Mr. Hart?
I have nothing.
Okay. Ms. Mern?
I have no other questions. I agree with Mr. Smith.
Okay. This is not, you don't have to ask questions at this point. This is your opportunity to provide any testimony which you wish to have the board consider.
The only thing I would have is the traffic problem.
Yeah,
You have to swear her in.
yeah.
Jim, swear her in.
Stand up, please. Repeat after me. I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
I do.
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
So help me God.
Ma'am, your testimony is your concern regarding traffic issues, is that?
That is it. Thank you.
Mrs. Himes, Jody Himes. Do you have testimony you wish to present?
I have another question. If
Well,
that's no.
we should,
Or do you want me to save my questions for later?
well, your opportunity to ask questions is cross-examination of witnesses and so forth. And now is the opportunity for you to provide actual testimony of matters that you want the zoning hearing board to take into consideration.
Then I guess I have nothing to state now then.
I mean, Rayanne Kaufman, please stand. Please swear in Ms. Kaufman.
Repeat after me. I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
I do, I hear, sir, tell the truth.
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Thank you.
I would like to say that I agree with Mr. Smith, what he has to say, and I would like to ask you to add on to a few things. I want the board to understand that with this, that you're going to be deciding on, you're be setting a precedent for the rest of the, I guess, the industrial zoned area here. So I just want you to consider that, and consider us, as your your residents here and your neighbors. We are your neighbors too. You got to consider, what we will have to experience, and and you will also have to experience as well. I know there's testimony about the geological, the ground issues and stuff. I haven't heard much more towards that. So I don't know what that will entail with their buildings. So I want you guys to take that into consideration, especially for the height, since that they're asking for a variance to the height. This is why we're having the hearings. So I just want you to, consider, everything what you've heard, and consider us, the residents, and what we are saying to you guys. Because we want to voice to you our concerns. So I guess that's all I really have else to say. Everything else is going to cover that I want to say.
Mr. Andrews, members of the zoning hearing board, do you have any questions of Ms. Kaufman?
No.
Mr. Arndt?
No.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Mr. Livelsberger, I don't believe is here, but I'll give him what, he's a party. Okay. Mr. Wilkie. Please swear in Mr. Wilkie as a witness.
I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
Do I hear swear to tell the truth?
the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
The whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. First of all, I think these guys from Divert, especially this guy wearing a jacket here, I think he made a really good presentation, so I can't knock him for that. But what I'm gonna knock is anybody there on the board live close enough to be concerned? Where you live?
Live right over by Half Pint Creamery. Half Pint Creamery.
That's too far away. Yeah.
It's not a mile, but I live close by.
Anyway, you people don't have that much at stake. You don't have to look at it. I would like to say everything that Steve Smith said, he's right spot on. I want to do say one thing I wanted to bring up about the water here a while back. There's a positive 20,000 gallons going out. Now, Right now, the sewer bill is based on what you take in. Is the sewer bill gonna take care and count the 20,000 gallons a day that they're putting out compared to the 10,000 bringing in? Are they?
Is that a question for me?
What was the gallons?
100,000 gallons.
100,000 going out, and how much take it in? 10? So that means they should be billed for 90,000 gallons a day on a sewer bill. Because the sewer plant's gotta process it, right? Once again, you people sitting up there represent the people of the township. These guys made a good presentation. I think something worse could go in, but besides that, once they get in, if they get in, and the next one, and the next one, you're talking about traffic. Traffic is just beginning, and then it's gonna bite the township in the behind in a big way. Then you're gonna want traffic lights and all sorts of stuff to go along with it. That's it.
Do the member, Mr. Andrews does not have any questions of Mr. Wilkie. Do any members of the zoning hearing board have any questions?
No.
Mr.
I have
Hart?
one for him.
Oh, you do? Mr. DeBoer?
Yes, do you have any concerns of the tower, the digester? Height?
Do I have any?
You had mentioned in previous meetings that they were wondering if you could put it underground.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I mean.
I thought it was a
why
good
make
point.
it 70 feet high?
Right.
Just build it 30 feet into the ground, and you only need 50 feet or whatever.
Just wondering, is that a possibility for divert? Put a portion of it underground?
Can't ask him.
I'm sorry, I might be out of order.
Let's just swear Mr. Davis back in. Sorry.
I do hereby swear to tell the truth, and the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. Thank you.
Yeah, so subject to a geotechnical study, where there'd be several borings to effectively look at all the soil samples and come up with, you know, what the ground can support.
You want to stand up?
You can stand.
Yeah.
So subject to a geotechnical study, which would involve multiple borings into the soil at multiple depths, which would inform the design as to what that soil and those conditions could support. If that study suggests we can dig down, that's why we've stated the most conservative position is 70 feet. And to be clear, on the 70 feet, the tank itself is right around 60 to 65 feet. I want to say it's 60 feet. The 70 feet is for a vent stack on the top of it that's very small. So when you think of a tank, it's 60 feet. So if we can bring that down 10 feet, subject to soil conditions, we're certainly willing to evaluate the viability of doing so. I can't say whether 10, 20, 30, 50, nothing. I don't know until that, but yes, subject to that, that's something that we would be willing to look at in more detail. But it's all about the viability.
All right. I just wanted to conclude with Mr. Wilkie also that, you know, we have a book of ordinances, and this ordinance is already pre-written. You know, this is already by the township, so we have to go by it.
I've seen that book, it ought to be rewritten.
But legally, this board has to, I mean, its absolute legal duty is to follow the land use, the zoning ordinance. We have no jurisdiction to go beyond that and so forth. We have a very limited role under the law, and that is whether or not the request meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance in terms of deciding it. If we were to do elsewise, we'd be actually in violation of the law, so.
That's all I have.
Kim Mern is not here, correct? Kim Mern? Steve Markle? Joanne Leonard,
I'm here.
Scott Holstad, Gretchen Van Ostrand, Brendan McCall, Julie Doan, Ms. Timmons, Sandy Timmons.
Here.
It's your opportunity.
No questions.
Again, this is not, you don't have to, this is not for asking questions.
No
This is for
testimony.
you to provide testimony regarding your concerns for the zoning hearing board.
It was already stated by someone else.
Mr. Harrison, not here. Ms. Groff, not here.
Wendy Groff?
Wendy
I'm
Groff.
here.
Oh, Wendy, no, the reason I have no is you didn't have questions, sorry. Would you like to provide testimony? Would you please swear, Ms. Groff?
I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. My only concern really is, we talked about the odor of the trucks when they actually leave the plant, the covering of the trailers, not really knowing what is covering them, just that it's covered, so you know there is odor seeping out, and depending on where those trucks are going to take it to the landfill, are they going through the neighborhoods? I mean, I have, my grandkids live right over here on Maple Drive. They overlook that, is that, you know, just, I know it's in the air and it's going to eventually disintegrate, but while they're standing there waiting for the bus or whatever, just the smell, is that going to be just a problem? I like the idea of what they're doing, you know, as far as making the natural gas, but I more am concerned about that smell of them taking away the track, you know, that what's left over of the food. And that's really all my concerns are, is that smell afterwards, taking it out of the plant into landfills and going through the area.
Mr. Andrews, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Members of the zoning hearing board?
No.
Mr. Arndt?
No.
Thank you so much. Connie Ernst? Trevor Gladfelter? Bernard Mern?
Yeah, I got
Let's go ahead and swear Mr. Mern.
I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
I do hereby tell the truth,
the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
nothing but the truth to help me God.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, did any of yous on the board talk to the Hanover Borough about the sewerage going in and the water they're taking and things like that?
I emailed them once.
Huh?
I emailed them once,
Oh,
and got a
you-
response.
You got a response from them?
They said they were fine with it, however, you know, because it was, again, the net plus that they were going to add, I'm not sure how it was described to them, but I went over to the Hanover Water and they said it wasn't gonna be a problem.
Wasn't a problem.
So did the report.
And so, I mean, the zoning hearing board cannot, I mean, the zoning hearing board specifically can only make its decision based on the testimony that has been provided in these hearings. It can't go beyond.
Yeah, I didn't know if like the Hanover Borough would have a man come out to these meetings, and the same with the gas company that you're hooking on to. Or they don't come to any of these hearing meetings or not. So, that was my concern.
Any questions?
No.
Yes.
I do. I just really think we need to clarify the water consumption. I just think there is too big of a black hole there with a net positive what we're taking out, what we're giving back. I don't know if that was clear enough for the water department to say, hey, you're using a gallon of water, and what are you getting back? Well, you're getting 8 gallons back, but you can't use it. You know, I just think that needs to be clarified. I'd like to have them come to a meeting and speak to it. Because
That may be, Mr. Hart, I think you're.
Well, yeah, to clear up the whole water thing, first of all, during the land development stages, again, this is for the use, not all the landscaping, lighting, and traffic and all that stuff. During the land development stages, the township does require a approval letter from Hanover Borough regarding the water usage. I'm going to touch back on Mr. Wilkie because I wasn't asked when he was done, but this business would be metered the same as any other business in the township. So whether they use a certain amount, they're going to be billed for that certain amount. I can tell you already that Hanover Borough is well aware of this project, and Hanover Borough is in support of this project as far as not specifically the use, but the water. They can handle the water. They're not concerned about the water.
You're
So,
talking about the water coming.
I'm talking about the water they're using and what they're putting back.
If they're putting 100,000 gallons back and only using 10,000.
They have the capacity to treat that water. And, but,
They should be charged for what's being treated. Because I
well,
pay
sure.
a sewer bill and you do too.
Right, and I'm saying they will be. They're no different than any other business in the township.
How are you gonna meter that, what's going out?
Design, just when you have time, exhibits 8, 9, are the water capacity and sewer capacity reports.
Right.
Those are issued by Hanover Borough and its authority. They're not issued by us. It's their evaluation of the data we provided to them and their position on whether there is capacity in the system for that.
Okay.
That did not take into account any sort of net usage. It was, we're taking 60 for our use, 60,000 of your water, and we're putting 100,000 into the system. It was absolute gross numbers, not any sort of net in any way.
Okay.
And we will pay sewer bills on the full 100,000. We don't get a credit for any water we're pulling out or any sort of beneficial water that goes back in the
You hear
system.
that?
It will be required by Hanover Borough to give us that in writing.
It says you may modify this letter, so I mean.
Understood.
Yeah, so to go back, that was my only concern, but that's not what we're here for. What we're here for is the variance of the height of the building. So,
And the use of the property.
and that's it, so. The only other thing I have is, industrial businesses that you guys are considering. You gotta also consider Conewago Enterprises and Ring Container. Because Ring Container is right here, and then Conewago Enterprises is right over the hill. And they're huge organizations as well. Just
You
something.
mean as potential customers?
Like like you mentioned, the quarry as an industrial
Oh, other
business.
nearby
Yeah,
uses.
other uses. Like Ring Container is just right over that tree line,
Thank
and then the Conewago Enterprises is right over the hill. It's right next to the quarry.
Right.
So, and they're huge. So,
Thank you.
Robert Clunk. Gregory Howell. Dennis Martin. Please swear Mr. Martin in.
I do hereby swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Nothing but the truth.
Case number 5, 2024, application filed by the applicant, Divert Real Estate Holdings LLC. My concerns: the safety of the school children within classrooms, waiting on buses, walking, being subjected to additional truck diesel fumes and other airborne contaminants. When you change something, you are changing the structure, causing airborne contaminants. Fire safety. the facility water usage of additional gallons of water usage, causing a decrease in water pressure from the water tower. Event of structure fire, the present water tower may not be sufficient for major fire. Low water pressure. I oppose, turn down the Oxford Avenue waste food conversion plant. No variances, special exceptions, no relief. Appears the facility will injure or detract from the neighborhood, will not serve the best interests and the convenience of the community and the public welfare. It is not within the characters of the surrounding area, schools, residential, churches, and area businesses, causing atmospheric conditions as such. Conditions for fire, explosion, transposing of contaminants can be harmful to the environment and human health. Diesel fumes, noise, sleep, the safety of the community is most important. Taxpayers have the last say. At this time, I will submit my concerned information to the zoning hearing board. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir.
Do you wish to present is that a document that you wish to have?
Well, yeah, it's my concerns.
Okay.
Mostly my concerns.
Do you wish to have that presented
Yes.
as an exhibit?
Yes. Yes.
So, this will be, let us mark this. Martin number 1.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Andrews, do you have any questions of the witness?
I do not, I just asked for a copy of that at some point. I
Of
don't
the
need it now.
exhibit?
Mhm.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Any questions, gentlemen?
No.
Mr. Arndt?
Nope.
Mr. Dabbs, I believe, is not here this evening. Ms. Beecraft? Ms. Keeney? Ms. McKim?
Don't think I have to be sworn in, but I agree with what has been said. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Fields? Mr. Sneeringer?
I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
I do what I hear is for tell the truth,
the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
the whole truth, the whole truth, so help me God.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I'm not a township resident, but I've been before many zoning hearing boards and supervisors meetings as a builder and developer. I can appreciate what they're going through. And I've been turned down many times for less reasons than even they're asking for. So my question is, what right do you have in your ordinance to deny them the exception? I mean, I saw all the standards laid out, and said, oh, they met everything. Did they? That's the only question I have for you guys.
What I would say is the zoning hearing board will do its job under the law, and the law will be that it has to make a determination if the criteria has been met in order to grant the special exception. So.
But it can be very subjective, is what I'm saying.
And they are a quasi judicial body. They are the ones empowered to make those decisions and so forth. But I don't believe it's very much is subjective in terms of what is laid out in terms of rules. There is some, of course.
Yeah, you said it was very subjective. Tonight.
Mr. Andrews, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Members of the zoning hearing board?
No.
No. Mr. Arndt?
I do not.
Ms. Lips? Please swear her.
I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
I do hereby swear to tell the truth.
the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you.
There's so much I would like to say, but I won't. Things that don't make sense, like there's all this water Hanover can provide, but we're told we can't water our gardens at times. Just, I don't know, that just doesn't seem like common sense to me. But I'm not gonna go to those places. Where I'm gonna go is that I request from the board that you do not grant the request for lenience, or whatever you call it, in the maximum height of the building, that you stick to the ordinance that says it can only be so many feet high, that you don't make this exception for the company. I believe that somewhere, at some time, a board wisely put this restriction into the law of the township, because they looked around them and they said, boy, this place is beautiful and we need to keep it that way. 2 years ago, my husband and I bought our house sight unseen because my brother went around the house and sent me pictures of the views. You start putting up buildings that go beyond the height restriction, it's not a low fence. This thing has depth, it has height, it has width. It's a big blockade, a big eyesore. So I would recommend that the board not approve, and I don't have the legalese. I hope that doesn't nullify my desire, but however you say it, that you don't approve it. And then the second thing is, my understanding is, the area is zoned industrial, but not heavy industrial. And that's another request that the company is making. And I think a lot of our concerns having to do with traffic patterns and water usage and storage and just pollution in general come back to the issue of the heavy industrial use. And so I would ask that the board does not allow that change either. So I think I covered what I wanted to say.
No question. No questions. Members of the zoning hearing board?
I have a question for Dave. The land is zoned. Can you make that official judgment?
What's that?
Can I ask Dave a question about the zoning of this property?
In what regard? I think Dave.
I just want to know what it's zoned for.
Oh.
Just clarify it. Clarify it.
It is zoned industrial zoning.
Got
correct.
But not heavy industrial, right?
Heavy industrial is one of the many uses that is allowed by special exception under within the industrial zone. So it's a permitted use by special exception.
So then what I'm requesting is that you don't make a special exception, right? Is that
That
right?
is what you're requesting.
Okay, all right, thank you.
The Tierneys. You have testimony?
I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
I hereby swear to tell the truth,
the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
the whole truth, so help me God.
That was close.
I just want to say that I agree with what everyone is saying here, and we live on North Street, which isn't in this township, but we are very affected by the things that will happen here. And as all of you know, Route 116 is a constant construction site. I don't know what they're doing, but it's been that way since before we even moved here. And every time there's some sort of construction there, or whether there's construction there or not, they use our street as their thoroughfare. And, you know, so I can only, and today, coming back from somewhere, and well, actually we were going to the pharmacy, and we were coming down Oxford Avenue and came to the intersection there at 116, and a tractor trailer was trying to make a right-hand turn and barely could even make that turn right there. So, I mean, and we're gonna double, triple that. And I mean, you know, and it just seems like asking questions and everybody's like, oh, well, that person's not here, or that was at another meeting, and I understand that, like, we did miss some meetings and stuff, but it's definitely something that needs to be addressed, because you're gonna have jackknife tractor trailers, you know, constantly stuck on this road, and then whose responsibility is it gonna be? It's gonna be, now it's gonna be what, McSherry's Township's responsibility to, you know, get these guys unhitched and stuff, and it's just ridiculous. And I know, I actually found out I have some cousins here. My family's been in this area for over 300 years. My family is the Keggies that owned all three of those farms right across the street from there. And I'm not sure if many people realize this, there's a historical cemetery back there. And I'm not sure how that ever affected the decision to have industrial over there with having a historical landmark right there. So, and coming out of that driveway, which I think this lady here said, I think it might even be her driveway, when you come out of that driveway to visit the cemetery and you try to sit there to make a turn, you can't even see. It's like a blind spot, you know, and you're proposing to put part of that driveway right there, like across the street from this lady, and you can't even see to pull out of her driveway without getting hit. I mean, I sat there the one day and wanted to turn left to go home and ended up turning right because I was too afraid to turn. So just, that was my opinion, you know, I want you guys to know that, you know, these are some serious issues to take into consideration. So that's all I had.
Mr. Andrews, any question? No question. Hearing. No. Members of the zoning hearing board. Mr. Arndt. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
nothing but the truth, so help me God. My question for the zoning board, what advantage is it gonna be to us homeowners here? What are we gonna gain from this project? What is the township gaining? What is the township gaining? You getting pocket money or what?
Tax break?
This is your opportunity to provide testimony. The zoning hearing board can only consider the provisions that are set forth in the ordinance.
Well, I think our questions should be answered.
Well, I don't believe the zoning hearing board can answer that
I think
question
you're right.
because they are a quasi-judicial body. They are not involved in those issues. Their only issue is they are, under the law, required to apply the factual information that was provided and consider the evidence and then make a determination as to whether or not the applicant meets the requirements under the zoning ordinance.
Well, I want them to know I oppose it.
No, everybody wants it.
Any questions of Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Andrews?
No.
Members of the zoning hearing board, any questions? Mr. Arndt? Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Ms. Hershey?
I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
I do hereby swear to tell the truth,
the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I've been attending these meetings for a long time. My dad was living, dad's been gone now for about 13 years. And I'm going to talk about aesthetics, all right. At one of those meetings, we were told point blank by the commission, the supervisors, that the Eisenhower extension was dead. We all know that was not true, because I'm now looking at it, going right on one side of my property. At one point, Dad offered to buy land from John Bear, who owned the farm next to us, for the purpose of not keeping people building up next to us. And John Bear refused to sell us the land because he said to my dad, Jack, this will always be farmland. You will never need to worry about that. And we know that's not happened. I've been speaking countless times to the board, and it's like spitting in the wind, is my opinion, because I feel that the board's already made up their mind as to what's going on, what they want to do. As a homeowner, as I've said, my family's lived there for 300 years. I walk on land and farm on land that my ancestors farmed on 300 years ago. People come out to my home and they say, wow, it is so nice out here, because it is so nice and so quiet. Time after time, I've heard people say, I forget how nice it is out here. And I have felt that from the very beginning of attending meetings here, that you don't care about the aesthetics, you don't care about the life, you don't care about our soul comes from the land. That is our soul, and our spirit is the land that we have had here. And to me, wondering, again, as other people have expressed it, what am I going to have left of my 3.5 acres of my inheritance after I have the Eisenhower, the gas plant, and whoever else decides to build? And I've attended countless meetings here and listened to Pat Schaefer and others run just about any plan that they could figure out that they could make money off of, and happily it has not gone through due to sinkholes and other rulings and regulations. But it's just been one after another of what can we do with this land to get our money out of it, instead of, as has been expressed, what am I going to get out of it? How is this going to benefit me? I don't see any benefit to me at all, except a major loss in my life and my soul. Thank you.
Andrews, do you have any questions? Members of the zoning hearing board, do you have any questions of Ms. Hershey? Mr. Arndt, thank you for your testimony, Ms. Hershey. Okay, we have the testimony of all of the objectors who have wished to provide testimony. So at this point, we want to see whether or not the applicant has any rebuttal testimony that you wish to present for the consideration of the zoning hearing board.
No rebuttal testimony from witnesses, just a closing statement at the right time.
Okay. Very good. Well, zoning hearing board, I think it's that time where we can have concluding remarks by the applicant.
Yeah, get it right for.
Try to be mindful. I recognize we've been here several months, but I do want to take the time to try and tie this all together. I want to start by saying thank you to each of you for your time and attention to this. From the first hearing to tonight, you've asked very thoughtful questions, and you've engaged with us in a meaningful dialogue. And the public has asked thoughtful questions as well. I feel good about where we got to with the proceeding. I want to start with what this isn't about, and some of this has already been said in the last half hour or so, but this hearing is not about whether the land should be zoned industrial or ever should have been zoned industrial, or even residential for that matter, which is what it was before it became industrial. This isn't about whether there should be any industrial use on that property. Both of those are legislative decisions that the Board of Supervisors already made, and it's not your role to second guess that. This is also not a question of whether Divert can or should go somewhere else. The question is whether Divert's application meets the ordinance requirements for this specific site. And finally, it's not a question of whether this, together with unforeseen future development, will have some sort of cumulative impact that's unreasonable or unlawful. You're asked to look at things one application at a time. That's not to dismiss any of the concerns related to those topics. I understand where they come from, but that's just not what your role is. You're here for a specific reason. And tonight, it's about a special exception application. I told you the very first night we got together that that was an awful name. It's neither special nor an exception. It's a use that the ordinance expressly permits in this zoning district where this property is located. It's simply our duty to demonstrate to you that we meet all of the ordinance standards that come with that kind of a use. We diligently went through all of those ordinance requirements through the testimony of 5 witnesses and with the help of 11 exhibits. We covered the industrial zone lot and area standards with Mr. Brady's testimony tonight. We covered the specific use standards for heavy industrial uses through Mr. Miller and Mr. Davis and Mr. Brady. And we covered some of the other applicable ordinance provisions with all the witnesses. We tried to carefully go through everything one at a time. And I feel confident that we landed on showing that we complied with everything. Now, there's a presumption when a use is permitted by special exception that it is consistent with the general health, safety, and welfare. And it's up to opponents to overcome that presumption. They have to do that with actual testimony, typically expert testimony or exhibits, and not just lay testimony. And they have to prove that the impacts are unusually adverse beyond what normally would be expected for that type of use. So they would have to have shown to you with evidence that our heavy industrial use is unusually adverse compared to any other heavy industrial use. Although the comments provided tonight were thoughtful and come from the heart, they did not rise to the level of overcoming the presumption that our use is consistent with the health, safety, and welfare. Now, I'm not naive. I know it's hard to sit in your seats. The pressure can be a lot sometimes. There were comments throughout the 5 hearings of do the right thing, we're your neighbors, remember who you represent. That can get tough. But it doesn't matter whether there's nobody here to oppose this or 200 people to oppose it. Your role and duty remains the same. Look at the testimony, look at the exhibits, does it meet the ordinance? Our testimony, our exhibits prove that our application complies with the ordinance. And on the tank height issue, we're confident that the ordinance should be read and interpreted to permit the tank height that we've proposed. We don't think a variance is necessary. We only ask for the variance in the event you disagree with the language in the ordinance and how it's been interpreted. That's our position on that one. So with that said, just again, thank you for your time and attention. I'd ask for all of our exhibits to be admitted into the record. And finally, just one last observation. There are a lot of parties not here tonight. And you can reach whatever conclusion you want to on that. But for me, I'm confident it's a reflection on what we did to fill the information void, to answer questions, and to address concerns. And that's why those people aren't here expressing any more concerns. Thank you.
Mr. Arndt, are there any concluding remarks on behalf of the township that you wish to make to the zoning hearing board? Each one of the parties has an opportunity to make concluding remarks, just as the applicant did. We're going to go one at a time to see if anybody wishes to make any concluding remarks to the zoning hearing board. Ms. Matthews, Ms. Barham, Ms. Glasgow. Mr. Smith, would you like to make any concluding remarks?
You know, he raises a valid point. They have money to invest in all their experts. We don't.
Right.
And that's an unfair proposition as far as I'm concerned. I don't have the money to go out and spend a whole bunch of money on him or you or any other lawyer. So that's really all I gotta say.
Ms. Mern,
No comment.
Ms. Hines,
Nothing further.
Ms. Kaufman.
I would just like to say that whatever your decision is, you're going to be setting the precedent for the rest of the industrial sections of this property. Yeah. I grant it, and I agree with Mr. Smith. You know, sorry that we're not lawyers. We're just lay, everyday people. And we should have a voice. You know, we should be listened to. I can understand what they're saying, but they have not done their geotechnical core sampling, so technically they don't know yet what they can build until that's done. So I would hope you would take that into consideration as well. There's a reason why there is a limit in the zoning for 45 feet, so I just want you to consider all that. Right, thank you. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Wilkie.
I think this gentleman here really did a nice job of laying a guilt trip on a board. So, thank you.
Ms. Mern. Ms. Timmons.
No comment.
Ms. Groff.
I'm good.
Ms. Ernst. Mr. Gladfelter, Mr. Mern.
No comment.
Mr. Clunk. Mr. Howell. Mr. Martin.
No, I'm
Mr. Sneeringer. Wait. Yes, Mr. Sneeringer.
The only question I have is it a variance on one item and a special exception for another?
The variance has been requested in the alternative. Essentially, it is the applicant's position. The board will have to decide whether or not the anaerobic tanks are exempt from that height limitation based on the section within the zoning ordinance.
But that would be a variance?
Now, a variance is if somebody cannot comply. There are exceptions to the height limitation of certain structures.
Right, but I heard somebody
The
mention-
height limitation is for buildings.
Right, I heard somebody mention variance. Does that apply to anything here?
It only applies if the zoning hearing board makes an interpretation otherwise. The ordinance has exceptions of different structures that don't comply with the 45-foot height. The board has the jurisdiction, it has to make interpretations under the ordinance.
I was under the impression that a variance requires a hardship.
That is correct. Unnecessary hardship is for a variance. This board may not get to the issue of a variance.
Okay, whatever.
Ms. Stoll-Lips.
Yeah, although I'm confused now, what I wanted to remind the board of is the gentleman said that they fulfilled all of the ordinance, and yet my understanding was they did not in 2 areas. And now I'm confused with this last conversation. But I wanted to bring that up because he did say they had met everything, correct?
That was the closing argument.
That was his argument.
Yes.
But that was not true, was it?
The board will make.
The board will decide,
It's gonna
okay.
make all of it, the legal decisions. And candidly, it's gonna be a pretty heavy task because the board has to now look back at a lot of testimony that was provided in June, July, and then this evening. So they have a pretty heavy burden here, folks.
I just wanted to.
And I can tell you that these folks are very much, I mean, they are going to do their duties under the law. They aren't mailing it in or made any decisions as of yet. That would be improper.
And were we supposed to provide, I saw the one gentleman provided it in writing, are we to?
You can, there's no requirement.
Okay.
We allowed you to present testimony, which
Okay.
is proper.
And you recorded that?
That testimony, that's why we have the stenographer.
All right, good, thank you.
And so I would anticipate that transcripts will be prepared for the zoning hearing board to study and to look at. And again, they have the heavy task of, I mean, going back to June, for instance, and to what was testified to, they do have to consider all of that information. Ms. Tierney.
No, thank you. I'm fine.
And Mr. Tierney, you are actually, do you wish to say anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Schmidt.
No questions at this time.
Ms. Hershey, I know you spoke from the heart previously, but this is your opportunity to make any closing statements, if you wish, to the...
In response to the gentleman that stated that some of our residents are not here because burden of proof has been submitted, honest to God, hand to God, they feel as I do that they're losing. And why bother to come when you're going to lose? It's not that they have satisfied the burden of proof. They're frustrated as I am, and heartbroken.
Okay, that would be all of the closing remarks. It's now time, if the board wishes to adjourn the hearing.
Do we have to do our minutes from last time?
We should.
We need to do our minutes.
But, yeah, but let's deal with our hearing.
I'm sorry.
This hearing is adjourned and the deliberations may be conducted in executive session as per the Sunshine Act. You may stay and quietly wait for the board to return, but please note that we may or may not have a decision or an answer. Okay? Thank you. And one final word. You guys really do put a whole lot of pressure on us. You really do. I mean, I didn't have this white hair when I came in here. Look at it.
The zoning hearing board began its deliberations with reference to case number 5-2024, and at this juncture, the board is not going to be making its decision this evening. In that regard, there's a lot of information for the zoning hearing board to consider in making the determination. The zoning hearing board would like to set a special meeting for the decisional meeting, and that would be Thursday, October 10th at 6 p.m. Is that correct?
That's what we got.
All right. The board will be conducting private executive sessions for purposes of deliberation, and we intend that we will be meeting one evening in September, and we will also use our normal meeting date of October 2nd for an executive session. It will not be a public meeting. Is that correct, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
6 p.m.
6
Yes.
p.m., yeah, we'll use their normal time. So, but that's within the 45 days, but gives us a little bit of time to thoroughly go through the evidence that was presented. Any issues with the applicant or anybody here with regards to that schedule?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Is that it?
We got to do the minutes, but we can let.
Yeah, everybody else can go. We gotta approve the minutes from the last meeting.
So, yeah,
Thank you very much.
You should have read it.
Okay.
Is this your hat?
I'm sorry?
Gene.
To second it or first?
First.
I made it.
Gene,
Gene to approve minutes.
All right.
yeah,
Who seconded?
Jerry.
Jerry.
I'll second.
Okay. 5-0. Okay.
Dave, in
Yeah,
terms of that first executive session and so forth.
Let's go back to, what days did you want?
And I'll be honest with you folks, I'd be happy to host it at my office in Gettysburg if you wanted to come there.
guess
I
you
mean,
would
there's
be
no
happy.
requirement that we,
If we can't come here, I'm
because
fine.
if Dave,
fine
you
with
have
that.
an issue with.
Yeah, that works for, why don't we do that?
If we can't come here, I'd rather come here.
Oh,
September 18th at 7.
Dave, I was gonna have snacks and everything.
We have liquor.
So if you don't have to
Yeah,
drive,
that's
can
That's
we
the
start
second
it?
executive session.
If we go to your office, can we start at 6:30? I'm negotiating an earlier time.
Wait, so September 18th,
Yeah, it's just an executive session.
But that is you guys, that's not me involved.
You don't have to be here. We
Okay.
just need to be able.
space.
We just need-
How long do you think?
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half tops.
Yeah.
Tops.
Yeah. I mean, it would be great if we could use here, but.
All right, well, you can, and I'll let you in. I have an Adams County planning meeting that night.
Oh, okay, what
So,
time's that meeting?
7.
7.
But I can phone in until I get there, so I'll be here, 6 o'clock.
Our
on the
meeting's at
18th.
7 that day,
Yeah, we're
right?
meeting
Isn't that
at
the one you
7
can't
that
go
Yeah, I
at 6?
can't get there till,
Oh,
So,
wow.
but I mean, if you
If we
want to
can-
open at 6:30, I'll
If we
be
can get the transcripts, we can start a little early, right? Start, and then you can just come.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
true,
great
too.
idea.
Yeah,
Right.
Yes,
6 o'clock.
Get us the
Very good.
transcripts.
and I'll just get
Open
here
up, yeah,
as soon
till
as
the-
I-
yeah.
Now all the meetings are at 6.
Well, he had another obligation, so we were gonna start a little later. But,
I'm good.
so if we get
Okay.
here and start reading, and you get here when you can,
Okay, September
18.
18th, if I have transcripts by then.
Right, we might.
Might not have them.
We'll
That's-
back up.
that's
Wait,
all
wait,
right.
We're gambling right now, Dave. We're gambling.
Does that have to
Was
be,
there- I know, I remember, was there a reason why, I know I have something on the 19th.
wait, Mark, are you on again?
Yeah, the 19th is bad.
I thought he said that it's okay.
Oh, we're live again.
So,
I'm on TV.
Yes.
What channel?
What would you like us to do, Mark?
whatever. Continue, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
have we, I mean,
Why don't you
well, I
close-
think we should just
Can you
adjourn
close
the
the
meeting.
meeting?
Yeah, we're adjourned.